Yes, sir.
On your employment, how important do you think it is to get these people jobs in the United States and in your state?
How would we get the people? How can we put them back to work?
Absolutely, right.
If we stop the importation of goods from China and from Taiwan and from perhaps Mexico, we will have internal investments in our own internal structures that will create jobs. I can recall many years ago when the questions that were asked regarding the creation of jobs was any investment that was made. The question was, at that time, how many jobs does this create for Americans? How much good does this do for America? But we have transgressed to a point now where it's not how many jobs it creates, but what is our ROI? What is our return on investment? Rather than how many jobs does it create and how good is it for America overall, it is, well, what is the return to investors? We need to turn that around. We need to turn that around and remember that it's Americans who make up business first and foremost. It's Americans, it's the jobs. And that's what we've got to get back to. We've got to get back into a mindset where America and Americans come first, not the subsidy of some foreign country. Yes, sir.
Could you address the point about return on investment? For instance, the electorate of Alabama has invested in Richard Shelby for a quarter of a century, roughly. So apparently you feel that they're not getting return on that investment. And maybe you could address why you don't have confidence in Senator Shelby's addressing this problem now.
Let me address that by saying Richard Shelby has a $17.3 million war chest sitting right out here in front of him. A $17.3 million war chest. However, if you look at that war chest and where that war chest came from, you will see that it didn't come from the average Alabamian. It came from Wall Street. It came from big oil. It came from big business. Now that $17.3 million does not include another $6 million, I understand, that he has in a pack over here to the side that he can very discretionally distribute out to anyone that he pleases, be a Republican or Democrat or independent. And I understand that he just contributed $100,000 to our governor contender, Dr. Robert Bentley, just in the last couple of days from that PAC. And that's problematic. But that's how I would address Senator Shelby's investment from Alabama. It's not from Alabama. It's from big companies, big business, big oil, big Wall Street. That's how I would address it, that it's not from the average Alabama.
You've also, in response to constituent questions, asked about Senator Shelby's health and the possibility that he's not your real opponent and may use a provision of the campaign law to retire with his campaign war chest. Could you comment on what's the basis of this? Why would you ask such a question? And what are the implications?
The people of Alabama, many of the people in Alabama want to know the condition of Senator Shelby, the health condition of Senator Shelby. I have been asked about what do I know about Senator Shelby's health condition on the campaign trail. And of course, my answer is I'm not privy to that information. It's private and it's protected by HIPAA regulations. However, I have been asked, well, they have heard, many citizens in Alabama have heard that Richard Shelby is sick and that they know that he had cancer. And recently, upon Senator Shelby's cohort, Senator Dodd, announcing that he was not going to run for re-election and he was going to retire at the end of this term, that he had prostate cancer. And Mr. Dodd referred to the illness that he was suffering from, that he conferred with several cancer survivors. And one of those that he conferred with was Richard Shelby. Now, we do know that Richard Shelby did have a bout with cancer, prostate cancer, I believe it was, back in the late 90s or early 2000s. And it's my understanding, without any substantiation or actual proof, that he did have his prostate removed. But it's been conveyed to me on the campaign trail that the rumblings from folks throughout Alabama is that the cancer has returned. And there has been some substantiation of that from Mr. Shelby's office from the standpoint of the inquiry that's been made that he did have a relapse, but he is doing better now, which does indicate that there is some question as to whether or not he would be able to fulfill his full 6-year term if he were re-elected again from the citizens of Alabama in this election. So what I am concerned about as the senatorial candidate, the Democratic senatorial candidate, is whether or not Mr. Shelby will be able to fulfill his obligation if he is elected over myself, and what impact would that have by who would be Senator Shelby's replacement. And again, the rumblings that I'm getting is that perhaps Governor Bob Riley, the present sitting governor of Alabama, would either appoint himself, or if there is a Republican governor that is elected in the election in a week and a half, that Republican governor would appoint Bob Riley to replace Senator Shelby.